Welcome back, everyone, to the Soft Talk Hard Truths podcast, where healing is quiet, honesty is gentle, and growth is, of course, non-negotiable. We growing out here. I am. I am your co-host Jay.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Shay.
Like I said, welcome back. Hope you're enjoying the journey that we're on, as well as the journey that you may be on yourself. And yeah, let's hop into it. Well, sort of hop into it. I want to take a slight detour. We're gonna start off the bat with a tangent. That's
Let's go. Let's go.
that's how, that's how we
Let's do
are.
it.
So, a few episodes back, I think we were talking about 90s television, and how some of our favorite shows actually didn't prepare us, I guess, or taught us how to avoid emotions. And granted, that's not necessarily the job of a TV show, particularly a comedy. But shows can be entertaining and allow for growth and help people grow. It is possible. And we talk about this offline, Shay. You put out a post. I think it was titled the conversation about Martin no one wants to have something to that effect. He basically said that it would appear that everyone around Martin in his inner circle grew in some way other than he did, or rather, grew in some way and he did not. Excuse me. You would have thought that that we said something about his mama with some of the comments that we.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people, their feathers were definitely ruffled behind that. For sure.
It's hilarious seeing some of these TikTok comments. Oh, I will say, me personally, I don't really give a damn what people say on TikTok because TikTok is not a real place. Like I grew up without the internet or before the internet kind of took off. I'm from a time in a land where you had to see me if you had a problem with me, or I had to see you if I had a problem with you.
Right.
Ooh.
Right. Yeah, not this back and forth. Yeah, internet
Yeah,
stuff. Correct.
it's like
Okay.
like, we do it on a typing. All right, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not.
Just going back and
It's
forth.
like the only back and forth is gonna be you gonna take this with you or I'm gonna take this with me. Like that's it. like that's
That's
it.
it.
Okay, and
That's
like
it.
so, but it's interesting. Again, I don't know if to what extent you may know this. I know it's two things. One, when the folks were pushing back saying that Martin grew, 99.9% of the growth was just him getting like a new job, going from like the radio to the television show.
The radio to TV.
Career growth, sure. Technically, I guess that could be growth, but that's not That's not what we're talking about. Two, I don't know if that's real growth. Like, if you can change jobs and still be an asshole, that's
That you can.
that's not
That you can.
like that's not growth. That's just changing jobs.
Yeah.
But like that's what folks were calling growth. Also, who was saying this was unfortunately not surprising. Mostly men were saying this. So that kind of, that's a whole other conversation about, expectations of kind of what, I guess, or rather, a traditional view, I guess, of what a man's role in society is. It would appear there's still a large percentage of people who think that, you just go to work and get a better job, and that's what you're supposed to do as men, and that's it. At the end of the day, you don't gotta.
And that means you've
Yeah,
grown.
you don't gotta grow in any other way. Just keep moving.
Right.
Just as long as you move upward in your career, you're good.
Right. Which is not, and you're right. I did notice it, and it is true because Well, that wasn't what we were speaking of, right? And so, and even in the examples that we were giving during the podcast, we weren't speaking about that. And I think we might have even mentioned the fact that he had gone from the radio to the TV or what have you. But it's like, okay, yeah, but this isn't what this isn't what we're talking about, type of thing. Because, listen, sometimes being an asshole is how you get a better job. So I mean, it definitely doesn't mean that you had some type of emotional growth because you have evolved in your career, for sure. And it did seem like there were a lot of people that were saying, a lot of people were making comments like, it's a comedy. You guys are looking too deep into it. But, there are other comedies that were comedies, right? And they gave us funny things, but they also touched on all the things that we talked about, where you can show the characters are able to grow. Being funny doesn't mean that you can't have growth and you can't evolve as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So and they touch on even serious topics, and controversial topics. There's plenty of shows that have done that. So I do think that there is a possibility. Martin has its own lane, and that's just what they chose to do. But it is definitely possible to do it different and better. I think.
Correct. And that's all we were saying. There's a lot of room to do all of that. Living Single would be an example. Like every one of those main characters ended up, differently. Well, not differently, but they were not the same person. I don't think that they were at the end of that run. I can't remember what I'm trying to say. They all grew. That's what I'm trying to say. They were the same person they were
Yeah. Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
beginning of the
Yeah.
series. Like even Ditsy's silly Sinclair, found her calling, got the strength to leave Flavor. Found her man. Became a whole married woman partner. Actress.
Mm-hmm.
Each one. Max, when she became a mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
Kyle became, still had that ego, but opened himself to being loved and loving someone with Max of all people.
Right.
Max,
Right.
the same thing with her and Kyle. She opened herself to being loved and to love someone.
Correct.
Even like Regine, she always wanted her millionaire. She found her millionaire, but she got there by being honest. She had to
Right.
drop all the games and whatnot. So you can do it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right. It
it
can
can
be
be
done.
done. And for whatever reason, they chose not to do it on Martin. And that's cool. And Martin is still an adult show, but
Yeah.
our point remains.
Yeah. It still has its place, but the point is the point.
Yeah, go argue with a wall.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't say you couldn't get no laughs off of it. Nobody ever. You can get your own laughs, but it's just if you look at. I mean, and I think that's basically what you do in general in life. Like, I mean, you can do that with music. We could go back and talk about songs that when we were kids and we saw it one way, right? And we can go back and talk about them now as adults, and if we listen to them, how do we view them now? And even if our view of the song changed, it doesn't mean that the song isn't dope. It doesn't mean the song doesn't have whatever value that it had in that time and space. But it's just a part of when sometimes you just look at things a little bit differently and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Probably maybe the funniest comment I saw was that I think someone wrote that he joined a cult. They talked about the episode where he joined a cult. I guess trying to change who he was. And I was like, he joined a cult to escape his problems at that point in his life. That's literally the opposite of growth.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
just running away from your problems.
Mm-hmm. I almost forgot that he did that. I was like, as we're talking, I was thinking about it. Like, wait a minute. Yes, but I do remember him doing that because there was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, like running away isn't growing. Like dealing with your shit is growing.
Right,
You could have did that. You could have
right,
did that. Stayed in Detroit and did that.
correct. It's quite the opposite. You know, you deal with it head on and you figure things out, and that's how you grow.
Yeah,
That's where the growth occurs.
but yes, I mean it's definitely interesting seeing the comments and seeing people bring stuff up that actually hurt their point. You know, they say like, well, he married Gina, so that's him growing. Um, and I didn't even have to respond to that one because someone else was like, they just said what he said in the episode. Will you marry me, Gina? Damn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like that's what,
Mm-hmm.
like that's how
Right.
that's how you propose. Okay.
Right. And that's the growth that we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when you think about everything that had occurred by the time he was asking her to marry him. He could have said a lot of different things. You know, he could have had he could have had some nice things to say to her, for sure. Some touching things. But that's not, again, but those those are the kinds of examples that, you know, that we were talking about as far as just not, I mean, okay, you feel like he grew emotionally because he was able to ask someone to marry him, but does that really show emotional growth because you're able to ask someone to marry you and then ask them in that manner?
Yes. All that being said, Martin was a dope show. Today, not my particular cup of tea, but you know, definitely still a classic uh, for others. Classic in general. Um, but yeah, just it could be a dope show and still have some room for growth. That's all. So, speaking of growth, the the actual topic of today, we want to talk about dating while healing. Um, Something that I've been thinking a lot about. I am currently not dating, nor do I have any intentions of dating, as I am working on myself, as I say, trying to be better, become better. But one of the things that I guess, or one of the, I guess, kind of traps and pitfalls that I found myself kind of in is this thought that you have to be like 100% healed in order to be, um, and you know, in order to date, in order to be with someone. And if you're not that, then you basically need to go somewhere and work on it. So, um, but I guess I don't know. But even with that, it's like, okay, well, what percentage? If it's not 100, you know, is it 50? Is it 75? Is it 20? I don't know. I don't know. Um, is it, you know, is it that exact? You know, is it different for everyone? You know, kind of depending on where you are in your journey, what you're healing from, um, what the other person, you know, the other side, um, where they are, where they're healing from. Um, because
Mm-hmm.
one of the things, particularly with men, um, in my opinion, is that we don't really understand or even think about what it's like to be to be on the other side of us. Uh, Meaning the people who have experienced everything that we do and say and think. So it's like, um, yeah, it's something that I think about uh, a lot. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
So I think you're right. I think that it's a problem for a lot of people because people sometimes have the mindset that before they go out and date that they have to be like completely healed. You know, almost like there's a finish line. When I told you before, I've had people ask, you know, so when are you done healing? and I think some of the thought process behind those kind of questions is so that people can figure out when they can move on to do other things, right? Things like dating. But for me, it doesn't really work that way, right? Because you don't just wake up all of a sudden and all your past experiences, traumas, triggers, fears, anything that you've been trying to heal from just disappear. It's not the way it works. For the most part, I think that most of us are kind of, I've said this before, it's a continuous process of healing. So we could be healing all throughout our lives, so, and if that be the case, how do you fit in dating, right? But sometimes a relationship can um, help your growth because you experience a lot of things even about yourself when you're with someone, parts about you that maybe you don't even experience or have to deal with when you're alone. So, sometimes I think a relationship can be beneficial in, your healing. I mean, when you feel capable for that, I think that's more of an individualized choice.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely see that. Because yeah, you're absolutely right. Because like, if you're, you know, healing for the rest of your life, does that mean you're just not going to date until it's like,
Exactly.
like if it takes you your entire life to heal, what are you gonna do? You gonna date when you're dead? It's like that
Right.
doesn't really work out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I guess it can be scary because you're like, or I guess you feel you're not where you're supposed to be. Um, so you always worry. You may be worried that like something's gonna come up, or I guess that either will like derail your dating experience, or I guess expose kind of like an unhealed wound.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
again, like I said, that can be scary, and cause to pause. But like you said, it can also be, or it can be more of an opportunity to assist in your healing. Because say you find someone who is either is also on their healing journey, or is healed, whatever that may look like, but they understand, and they make the space for you to heal the way you need to be healed. I
Right.
think that a lot of times we don't think like it's easier to think of everything that can go wrong than everything that can go right. um, and that's something that I definitely struggle with, because like sometimes some days all you see are the flaws and where you went wrong, as opposed to what if it works out. So
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree. You know what? I think so because some of it is like I think sometimes we like we'll put healing in a box and kind of along the same line with perfection, right? And healing and perfection are two totally different things, right? Because healing just means you're aware of your experiences. You're working through these things. You're trying to find new ways to cope and work through processes and things like that. So which is far from perfection. So you don't have to get to a point where you have perfection in your life. Um, to say, hey, I mean, and can you get there? I don't know. Me personally, I don't ever see a point in my life where I'll feel like I'm perfect. I feel like I'm gonna always have something that I'm working through or healing from. Not to a point where it's detrimental, but just because I think that I think with each year, each decade of your life, things change. And so what you feel like you might have to evolve, grow, heal from can also change. So I think that's kind of why I also support the thought process that like most of us are healing throughout our lives, because I think that's just part of the human experience.
Yeah, I really hadn't thought like about it that way, but that is actually very very accurate. Because yeah, it does change as we, I guess, as we get older and as we move forward in our lives, because we change and the things that affect us change. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it definitely makes sense. Um, and then also think that what people think that healing means, like healing doesn't mean you had some like life altering trauma all the time. It doesn't have like it doesn't have to be like that drastic. But
Exactly.
it ranges. Kind of going back to yeah. Well, like every you say healing, just because you're healing, doesn't mean like it was just like a 10 out of 10 on the drama or the trauma scale. Like they're
That is 100%
yeah,
correct. Although for some people it is, but not for
yeah.
all. You're right.
And also like what I consider a 10 might be a 5 to somebody else, and vice versa. Because you don't know what people are healing from, and you don't know what people are going through. Um, like the worst day you experience might actually be an improvement for somebody else.
Right.
Like
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm like, that's the thing. And or vice versa, so it's just like, yeah, I think that's a big misconception about healing too. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that sometimes when people hear folks talking about healing, I think they sometimes automatically go to, oh, there must have been some big, huge traumatic event or something. And that is definitely not the case. There are some people that have to learn how to heal from themselves. There's some people that their biggest enemy in their life has been themselves, right? And so you have to learn how to heal from your own self trauma, right? There's some people. There's just a lot of different things that you can be healing from. Some of it, like we've talked about, some of it comes from the way things that we were taught when we were raised. Societal norms. There's just a lot of different things that affect a lot of different people in different ways. So healing, I think, is just it's a very broad term. And so people should remember that when you hear people talking about their healing journeys and things, and don't always jump to, you know, all the way left.
exactly. Can I just say for a minute just how um I don't know, frustrating is the word, but just seeing someone like you said that has to heal from being themselves, that has to kind of get out of their own way, but to see someone not be able to get out of their own way, um, that sucks. Because it doesn't just affect them, depending on how close you are, depending on the relationship, it can affect you because you kind of find yourself trying to get them out the way. Um, and if you can't, all of those things, like all those consequences that can kind of ensue. Um, yeah, now both of you are kind of in this space where you have to heal. So it those and again you know nothing like no major trauma or terrible event. It's just someone that can't get out of their own way, but because they can't, it affects other people. Yeah,
Everybody around them, all the people that are close around them.
yeah. Like no one broke a bone or got assaulted, but it's like you gotta basically decide if you can help this person or pay your rent, things like that. You know,
Right, right,
you know,
right.
you gotta,
Yes,
you gotta decide what's more important, helping them or your peace of mind. And
right,
how long can you go without helping yourself? You know,
right,
how
right,
much can you pour from an empty cup? Things
right.
things like that. So
Exactly. Exactly. And it's funny because I think that's really important that you bring that up because, I think a lot of people don't understand that when you have dealings with someone that has that kind of problem, it's like they are their biggest enemy. They cannot get out of their own way. How much it affects everyone else all around them. It's deleterious to everyone, right? There's stress that goes along with it, depending on what kind of bad decision making that they're doing. It can have a lot of consequences for everyone else, right? And then yes, then you end up in this. There's this vicious cycle that everybody ends up in because they're in that cycle. And so, and yes, at what point does it become trying to help you, but helping you has not been beneficial to me? It's been harmful. So I have to remove myself, right? Because now, and that is something that you do have to heal from. And it is hard because that's when you're trying to break away from it, or when do they realize like, okay, so I'm hurting other people too, and maybe sometimes if the thought process of knowing you're hurting other people as much as or maybe more than you're hurting yourself, maybe that helps you to do something different. I just find those kind of situations are sometimes some of the most difficult ones with those types of individuals in particular.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I can speak from experience. It's definitely
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it is
Mm-hmm.
definitely not fun. And I will say that for me at least, it does play at least a little bit into my decision to like not be dating right now. I feel like I gotta get all these things situated or get them all like in a row before I can even consider um, dating. And I don't even look at it as dating. I look at it as basically I don't want to expose anyone else to all this chaos. Like I feel like
Right. Right.
that's how I
Right.
feel. Like I don't, who
Yeah.
am I to expose someone, have basically bring somebody in tomorrow and have them make them deal with this? Because even if you say this is all my stuff, you know you don't have to do anything. Ultimately, either you build resentment because they are doing what you told them to do, just kind of keep separate, um, or they do try to help and they get get stuck or get pulled into, or you know progress is stopped. And again, it's just not fair. So I just don't want to do that to anyone. But like you
Mm-hmm.
said, you don't know how long this journey is going to take. Like, so at some point, you gotta decide: are you going to be like this forever, or not? Um, so it's definitely something that I think about. Um, but for now, I'll watch you guys on the interweb talk about 50-50 and what people bring to the table.
Well, that's always fun.
It's always fun.
That's always fun.
And oh yeah, popping balloons out there. Just yeah.
Yeah. No. 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 Stay away from that. It's funny that you said about the popping the balloons, right? Because earlier, I think that was Instagram I was on, and one of those reels came up with with all the balloons and all, and the lady walked out. Every single guy that was up there, they all popped their balloons like back to back to back to back, and then she said, "Oh, well, everybody popped their balloon." And I didn't realize that even if people pop their balloon, like they go talk to them, go ask them more questions and stuff, which is interesting, which is very, very interesting. I think she said she was like 33. And so I wanted to hear what they would be saying. And she had on this pretty skimpy dress. It was pretty short and it was like hanging off her shoulder on the one side. And so she said, the one guy came and he was like, "Listen, I'm just gonna say I feel like your friends played you out because if they saw you, you spent money on your hair and your nails and all, and they saw you in that outfit, they should have told you, nah, that's not it." He's like when they sent you out here, so I feel like they set you up. And so she comes back and was like, well, you're kind of right about the outfit because this is not something I would normally wear. I would be wearing something, a little different because this is pretty conservative. You could hear all of their gasps. She said this looked more like a church lady outfit. That guy said, what church are you going to? I lost it. I said, I hear you. Because I was like, church? Okay. Now, I know maybe they don't wear the stuff that, like I used to see my grandmom go to church in and stuff, but I don't think they wear that kind of stuff up in church. Yeah, I mean, what church do they wear like the little spandex kind of dresses that's right on the top of your thigh, and hanging off your shoulder? If somebody tell me, where's that church at?
That's the First Baptist Playboy Church.
He said, what church are you going
Like,
to?
yeah, I'm not. We definitely not getting as suited and booted as we used to, but I'm pretty sure. Um, I'm pretty sure that we don't go dressing like we about to get bent over a balcony shortly after either.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, she was definitely out of the. If you could have heard all the gasps, I said, "Oh my goodness!" When she said church,
That's
I was
funny.
like, "Yo, what do you walk around in every day, then, sweetheart? Like, what do you wear?"
Yeah, like listen. I'm all for. And again, I haven't seen this particular clip. I'm all for coming as you are. Maybe she should come as somebody else if that dress is really the way it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but hey, to each their own. Um, the
Yeah.
I remember one clip where they had it was all women, and a gentleman walked out, and very well put together, in shape, and one, well, I think a couple popped their balloons, but one in particular popped their balloon, and when it came time to for her to explain why, she essentially said that the reason they had nothing to do with him, it was more she didn't think that she was the type of person that he would find attractive. He
Oh, okay.
yeah, like, and she beautiful woman, well put together. She was, you know she definitely a little thicker than the others.
Okay.
She definitely, but curvy, but she pretty much just like took herself out of the running, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they asked him, like, would you date, is she, the type of person that you would date? And he was like, absolutely.
Oh,
He
wow.
was like, and so what I will say about these types of shows, what I do like is that depending on, when they allow for that conversation to happen. And then, like, when they realize, hey, there may have been an error or misunderstanding, they like, um, you can kind of fix it because they actually, I think they left together. Like, they actually had a conversation, and like she actually, like, they went and, well, hopefully they're together or not, but they actually um kind of got together and left the show. But I
Mm.
was like, sweetie, but it also kind of like, how many other people in her life may have said something like that? Like, where did that come from?
Right.
You know,
Right.
because I'm looking like she probably the baddest one in this whole lineup. But again,
Yeah.
I like them thick, so that's just me. But I didn't I was kind of like, I never saw someone pretty much take themselves out on the running like that.
I think like just because in society, I think sometimes, especially, I didn't see this clip you're speaking of, but if you look at someone, whether they're male or female, right, and they have like a certain look, their body's a certain way, they're dressed a certain way, they have that presentation. And so the automatic thought process for the opposite gender is, oh, well, if you don't look similar to that you're not the type of person that they would want to be with. So if you're a female and he's like all ripped and he's got all the muscles and this and that, and you're like, okay, so I'm probably not, because when I look and I see men like that all over the place, I don't typically see them with females that look like me. Or the same thing for like some men. I think that some of that comes just from society and what they see, or how people say, oh, this person, or if they are with that person, why would you be with her? Or why would you be with him type of thing, because that's just how society is, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of take that step further. Unfortunately, we're still dealing with, or I guess trying to adhere to standards of beauty that really ain't for us, never were meant for us.
Right.
And the people
Right.
in like the gatekeepers, so to speak, have this ideal, um, and that can be traumatic. Like that can be hard to heal from. I think a lot of us, men
Mm-hmm.
and women, are still healing from that because
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Can you? Well, I'll ask you. Like, do you know what it's like to essentially go your entire life being told that you don't meet the standard, like you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough to meet this particular standard that has really nothing to do to you, nothing to do with you,
Mm-hmm.
and then see that those same, the people who meet the standard are spending millions and billions of dollars to buy the things that you were born with,
Mm-hmm.
but you in your natural state don't meet this standard, like that,
Right.
like that,
Right.
like that's,
Right.
you know
It's mind blowing.
it is. And I you know I looking at the absurdity of it as a man is enough, but I can't imagine how that feels, um as a woman, as a black woman in particular, to be told this, and then seeing, every Ashley and Becky out here trying to get bigger boobs, a bigger butt, uh, fuller lips, a tan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
A 10. They insert, that they got braids now. It's just all the things that we got all the flack for.
yeah, and it's like I can't imagine how much that hurts, and like that's something that people have to heal from too. Essentially, being told all your life that not only are you not pretty, but there's a standard that you will never be able to attain just because of how you are.
Right.
Yet entire industries are built where people can buy the things that you were born with that don't meet this don't meet this standard. Like
Right.
they
Right.
like you
Exactly.
got motherfuckers out here thinking that Kim Kardashian invented big asses and full lips. Like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
she the one who invented, I don't know the name of the braids, but basically those braids. Um, I guess
The
she's,
mohos.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's just like, really? Okay. Um,
No. No.
there are some days where she look darker than me, and I'm like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
I remember folks telling us that ain't a good look, but all right,
Right. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Remember, it was a bad thing to have color. Yep. It's funny because yeah, you think about it. Because remember, they used to make the songs and they used to say all kinds of stuff. I mean, everything used to be ill and everything. It was no good, and now it's what everybody else wants.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep. As the saying goes, they want our rhythm, but not our blues.
Mm. All right now.
Little sprinkles
You
for
know
y'all. Little
that's right.
sprinkle, sprinkle.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that one. Right on in there. That part.
Yes. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely something that's, like something like that though is nothing, overtly traumatic, but it's a lifelong, like simmering, festering trauma, I guess. And it's hard because if I'm with a woman who has experienced this, I could tell her, hey, you're beautiful. I could show her every day, but it's like, if she was exposed to that every single day in some way, shape, or form, overtly or overtly or covertly, it's going to be hard.
Right.
Eventually I'll probably get frustrated because I'm just like I'm talking through a brick wall. I don't know exactly how she feels because I didn't experience that. I just know it's absurd. Their standards is absurd, but it's not the same as me actually experiencing it. But now you have two people kind of having to heal in a sense. I have to change the way or what I guess my care and how I show love looks like, and that can kind of be hard. And you talk about white people with these standards, but unfortunately some of us have internalized that. I had an ex who told me basically that she can never be with someone who was like very very dark. She can never be with a very very dark skinned man. And I was kind of like just look at the silent like, all right, like why, you know? And she could never really give me a good reason. Yeah, but seeing like yes, having that conversation was always just weird for me. Mainly because I hadn't had or had like those types of thoughts since I was like 10. Like when you're 10 and stupid, you
Right.
I remember like teasing girls who are darker skinned. But again, I was 10, and
right.
I assume you grew out of these things. these things. But for her, maybe not.
Interesting.
Yeah, because now again, I love me a dark brown. like, but and I'll say like that part is also hard because like I know how I am. I'm very much a come as you are type person. Because and the reason I'm like that is because I know what it's like to as a black man, I know what it's like to be told that you don't belong, you're not enough, you're not good enough, all these things. So who the fuck am I to tell somebody else they're not like who they are? Yeah, that's just me being a black man. So that's kind of how I try to approach the world, and like I'm not trying like I'm not telling anybody who they who they can't be, who they aren't, they're not good enough. And then me personally, like I said before, I got thing for the dark milk and sheet and brown. That's my personal preference.
Right.
It's not everybody's, but cool. But it's hard for me sometimes when I encounter people who, again, if you don't have my personal taste, great, like shitting on them, like saying that this person isn't beautiful, like this person doesn't meet some arbitrary standard, like that a part I got a problem with because it's like who the fuck who the fuck are you?
Yes. Yeah. We start there.
Yeah, but also if you are part of a community or a group of people who historically has been oppressed and told that they ain't shit, who are you to tell somebody that they ain't shit? Like
right.
Like
Yeah.
that's where I come with it. And then I like that I kind of that part of feeling because it is a form of feeling to not think like that. It's very easy to with all the nonsense going on today, it's very easy to, I guess, try to adhere to these particular standards of beauty. Excuse me.
Sure.
but I ain't having it. I'm not having it. It's just like,
It's what it is.
oh my goodness. Yeah, you know the the I always say that all racism is a form of ignorance, because when you actually look at what they're saying, it really does come from a place of ignorance, and a lot of it is hypocritical. So you got hypocrisy and ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
A few weeks ago, our commander in tweets, as I call him, I guess retweeted or liked a post depicting the Obamas as monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I didn't come up with this. The late great Paul Mooney came up with this. He apparently he had spoke about this decades ago. He said, have you? I'm paraphrasing. But basically, he said, have you taken a good look at a monkey? Monkeys have thin lips. Monkeys have lighter eyes. Monkeys have straight hair. I'll add that once you get past a lot of hair, a lot of monkeys have white skin. Have you taken a good look at a monkey?
This is all true. This is all true. That is correct.
Yeah. So, but if you've been hit with that for centuries, that it can be hard to come around to that way of thinking. Um. So
Yeah, that's all. It's all true.
yes, but it's not going to be a racial discussion. Back to the thickies, as I was saying.
Yeah.
We're talking about some other show. We talking about curves right now.
Mm. No, that's right. You need them.
It is. Yeah, listen. Listen, man. So, and I ain't shit because I've gotten less worried about like calling these things out. Like I've gotten not into trouble, but I've gotten a couple of side eyes because someone said, "Oh, she looks good." I'm like, "She looks hungry."
That's fine.
There's a difference.
That's pretty funny.
There's a difference, and I ain't saying nothing bad about it. She look hungry. She might need to work on that.
You need that meat.
Hey, okay. Luckily for her, she looked like she could probably get that rectified if she wants to.
Mm. Mm.
Like
Yeah.
I ain't say she look hungry and no one should feed her. I just said she look hungry. Handle that.
Easy fix. Easy fix.
Easy fix.
Mm-hmm.
Easy fix. Don't get mad at me. Give something to eat. Shit.
There are some people out there that are really, really there's some folks, it's funny because I guess it depends. I mean, well, overall, our country, they say, I mean, out of all the countries, we have like the biggest, what they call obesity issue out of all the rest of the countries and things. And so it's always funny when you hear people still make comments about that because your average person, regardless of their race, is overweight in this country. Those are just the facts. Go look them up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just, so the people who are usually the smaller people, those people are actually your exceptions at this point. They're not the rule anymore. As crazy as that sounds, but that is the truth because that's how these are the facts of our country.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time because it's something that they want us to focus on. Mm-hmm. And healthcare, it's a big push.
let me ask you this. I guess, being in healthcare, like definitely, I think the average person is definitely overweight. But my question is more about what, obesity, and I guess what we consider to be obese, because you know, from a lot of times, we see someone we say is obese, but they're just heavy or they're just thick. Example would be like Shaquille O'Neal, because he weighs. I think at his peak he was like 350. They were saying he was obese, but I'm like
So,
he's 7 foot one. Um, and he lifts weights.
huh?
I, I've seen, and I guess some people were saying, well, he should be more like in the maybe 260 or 250. I'm like, I watch basketball. I see the people who were 250 and 7 feet, and Shaq snapping them in half. I don't think, I don't,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
hey, I think 7 foot 250 is like too light in the ass, if you ask me. I'm not in the industry. I don't know. It would appear um that you can be underweight at a certain height compared to other heights.
Yeah. Yeah. Your look, so what we look, how we look at folks and what we're used to is definitely not how you look. If I'm looking at someone from, with my healthcare hat on, is going to be definitely different than I'm looking at someone, without it, right? Because in healthcare, we use something that's called a BMI, and so that's your body mass index, and so that's like the proportion of the fat versus your height and your weight, right? And so if you have a BMI that is like between 25 and 29.9, you're overweight, right? That's just how it works. If your BMI is 30 to 34.9, right? So now you're obese. That's how it works out with your BMI. If you get to 35 and you have some comorbidities, things like maybe diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure, things like that, now you're morbidly obese, right? Without those things, you have to get to a BMI of 40 to be considered to be morbidly obese. I don't know, me personally, I don't know that many people who are not at least in the BMI where they're considered to be overweight. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a BMI where I was considered to be regular weight at all. And I'm not a tall person. I'm 5'5.5". But if I were the weight that they wanted me to be in the book, yeah, I would be like this big. Never. It would never happen for me. I mean, I'm a grown woman. I need some kind of curves and things like that. So I feel like I would be a stick figure, which most of us would if we were textbook weight falling into the BMIs.
I had a I have a friend, lady friend, uh, black and black woman, which is I think is important to the story. She was telling me a story about how her doctor was telling her, because of her height. I think she was like five. I think like 5'5", maybe 5 foot. And they were saying that
Mm-hmm.
she needed to lose weight, and I guess that they gave her like a range, or a goal, and they were talking like you want, you should be like in like the 110 range or something like that. And she was like, my ass weighs that much. That like
Yeah. 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 Uh huh. Mm-hmm.
what are you talking? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. We're not gonna. We don't really. Yeah. We just don't. I think your app. If she's anywhere near my height, I want to say that. I think my textbook weight is like 125 ish. I ain't been 125 since I was in high school. Like that's a high school weight for. I mean, yeah. I don't. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. That sounds crazy. That's like little kids' weights to me. And no offense to anybody out there, I'm just telling you, me myself, I can't do it. I personally can't do it. You're not going to tell me. So if we go by the textbook, you're supposed to be 125 pounds because I know how much I weigh now, and I'm thinking 125 pounds. I'm gonna look like a crackhead. Look like a crackhead. My head's gonna look big. Everything will be all sunken in. It's come on. It's a no for me. And I work in healthcare. I mean, I'm not. I'm not gonna say I fully support going crazy. When you're super overweight, where it's affecting your health, right? So that's a whole different thing. Like if you have things, I mean, because I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and say I've never talked to any of my patients and told them so you should lose weight. However, caveat, these are people that have chronic conditions like diabetes with, A1Cs, which is your 3 month snapshot of your diabetes control of like 15. And, just for reference, you should be like 7. So these are the people, and then I'm looking at you and you're like 300 some odd pounds, and you're telling me, and I'm like, so if you lose some weight, it'll help. Right. So there are some times and some weights that are unhealthy. So there's a difference, not just to try to have somebody fit into a mold, right, of how you feel like they should look. But if it is affecting your health, sometimes it affects your heart. Some people have, heart failure, right? And so more weight will puts more pressure on your heart to do more work, right? So those things are a little bit different. But just in the everyday happenstance, no. Telling you. I'm not doing it.
That is
I
hilarious.
can't even imagine it. I cannot. I can't.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, in my head I'm like Chris Rock from what's the movie where he played the crackhead?
New Jack City,
Yeah, man. What was he? Was he like 125 pounds about in that movie?
if that.
See, come on. Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
It's funny, not funny, but you mentioned trying to fit a particular mode. Um, I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that mold really one made like for us because I just feel like most things in this country that they're not they don't really make them with us in mind. Um, and that can be tough because again you're trying to like you said fit in this mold, but it wasn't made for us. So like, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of just out there being judged on something that you have no control over. That also wasn't made with you in mind. It's it can be very hard to get to a place where you're like, what, screw this. But I just I have to appreciate me for me,
Mm-hmm.
particularly when society and the world and even people um, who care about you are telling you otherwise because they're still going off these standards that were made with them in mind.
Right.
No, nobody hurts you like the people closest to you. So you know, it it, it can be hard. Loving yourself, and then trying to get out there for something and hopefully have someone to love you. you know. Uh,
That's.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But that's a journey, I believe. Mm.
Yep. You know what? Some people. Everybody has. I mean, let's just put it out there. Everybody has some type of baggage, right? It's just the way it is, right? Past relationships, trust issues, not wanting to be vulnerable, financial security. I mean, it's just baggage comes in many different forms, right? but I think that having baggage isn't an automatic. No, it's not something like, okay, I can't take this. It's really about what type of baggage it is and how does that person handle that baggage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, are you aware that you have it? Are you willing to work on it, try to talk about it, whatever it is, right? Because these are the things that what I'm saying earlier, like sometimes another person can help you with things because some kind of baggage that you might have, you can't work through, right? Or you can't grow past without someone else. There's some things that you actually do need someone else to help you grow, get further. You can start by yourself, but you then later on you need another person, right? Because that's how you get past some of those other things, some of that baggage that you might be carrying. And that's the difficult part, I think, is kind of recognizing when are you there? When do you really have the capacity to bring someone else in, where it's safe for you and them? That's hard.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm definitely, excuse me, glad that you brought that up because it's definitely very difficult. And you're right. We fall into, I guess, this thought pattern that healing has to be a solo act, and doesn't necessarily have to do that, or have to be that way. Uh, how do you know how to treat a partner unless you get a partner? How do you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you
Correct.
know,
Correct.
I
Mm-hmm.
I am working on unlearning all of the like toxic masculinity and nonsense that I see, and I grew up, I guess, you know, learning and digesting as a kid, as like a young adult. Um, I can say everything, you know, properly and right, but how do I know I can treat a woman properly until I get me a little shorty, um, who happens to be dark brown and thick, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe it won't work on somebody who's not thick. I don't know. I'm just playing. I don't know. Yeah, like how do you know unless at some point you gotta put it into practice. That's also where like you hopefully go from just being self-aware to holding yourself accountable. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to be honest here. I am not a fan of the word accountability these days. It's just that I think it's overused. Um, it's overused and it's used as more as a weapon to beat women over the head with. So I try not to use it as much. But for the sake of this discussion, I'll use it. But I'll just say accountability is for men and women. Let's just make sure that's clear. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so all you red pill motherfuckers can go talk to your pappy about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's pick better, sure, but be better also works.
Correct.
Maybe if you were better, certain people wouldn't have to pick better. I don't know. I'm just saying. What do I know? What do I know? I'm 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 single. I don't know nothing. Mm, hey, uh, but self awareness is good. I personally don't like someone who isn't self aware. Like if you can recognize certain things about yourself, particularly after life has been slapping you in the face with said things like, I don't have much use for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel at a certain, I won't say at a certain age, but at a certain point in your life, at whatever age, like, you have to be aware of certain things, how certain things have worked out, how they haven't worked out. You have to be able to spot patterns. You have to be able to say, hey, not only, okay, this happened to me, but I did this.
Correct.
Is there a connection? Is there some, maybe it's not a direct correlation, but is there a causality?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That 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 can be that. Not everything is cause and effect, but there maybe some causality. Maybe you did something that has set something else in motion that you're now suffering the consequences for
Right.
years later.
Correct.
Were there signs?
Mm-hmm.
Was there an off ramp or 10 that
Mm-hmm.
that you could have gotten off gotten
Yeah.
off at any time? You know, that's self awareness. But it's not enough to just say that. Like, okay, cool, I did X, Y, Z. All right, what now? Like, you gotta actually work to heal. Like,
Correct.
I think
Mhm.
one of the things that still is whooping my ass today is how much of an active process healing is. Like, it ain't it ain't like you cut your hand and you gotta wait for it to heal because the body does it hits it's not like that. Like, you gotta
No,
just, you
no,
know
it's not.
and even in that case, you still gotta clean it. You gotta put some
Correct.
antibiotic, gotta put some ointment, gotta put a bandage over it. Like, even with
Make
that,
sure it doesn't get infected.
exactly, like,
Mm-hmm.
you still gotta at least not make it worse. You know,
Sure. Sure.
but it's active.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say, I'm working on this and then I'm still working on this. Okay, cool. Like, there has to be some actual work.
Correct.
Because you have people who are self-aware, but not just using that trauma as an excuse. And
Right.
again,
Yeah.
I have no use for
Yeah.
you. So,
Yeah. So yeah. Right. So having self awareness and using trauma as an excuse are not the same thing. They're not the same thing at all. So yeah, I agree. I think people, like, you have to recognize, you have to do the active work. It can't just be others, because some people always just focus on other people, what other people do or how they responded or things. And you're right, and a lot of times they don't look and see what is it that you have done. What was your role in this situation, right? So you have to start to recognize your own patterns, your own triggers, right? Triggers are big, right? Recognize your own triggers. Okay. Recognize, like, how your past affects your present. That's something else that people have a tendency to overlook, right? Because there's a lot of times that people allow what happened to them in their past to affect the way that they show up and they respond to different things. And sometimes that is what you need to work on and what you need to change. Perhaps that was the problem.
yeah, sometimes we are the problem.
Yes.
Like, it's probably the only time I will quote Taylor Swift. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Mm-hmm. But it's accurate. Sometimes we are the problem.
And what are you gonna do about that? I've had several conversations with my parent about this very subject. It's like, it's cool, it's great, in fact, that you can recognize certain things, but you actually got to work on them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't just say this happened to me, or this trauma. Cool, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but what now?
Right.
Because it would appear that your response to that is to just stick your head in the sand. which, you know, isn't I wouldn't recommend. Mainly, and you know, I told my parent this. I said just like this, like you know, when you stick your head in the sand, your ass is exposed. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, I don't know if you've noticed that, but I would imagine you might have felt it because life is currently whooping your ass.
That's right. That's right.
Like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
maybe not expose your ass like this. Maybe
Hmm.
work on some of the things you got to work on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's you know I'm being facetious. You know, I know that it can be hard. Um, you know, it's hard. It's easier said than done. Um, some people's reaction is to just excuse me is to just shut down.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't change the fact that like you have to get past it. Like you know, to quote a sports analogy, the standard is the standard. Like you gotta get past it because it's like you
Mm-hmm.
know, particularly when your actions or your inactions affect other people
Right.
like that. And for me, you know, I guess that's kind of one of my triggers. Like when if you're able to contain all of the chaos on your own, doing things the way that you want to do them, God bless you. Once your problems become my problems, I got shit to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay, and I got things to do now.
Yeah.
So you don't like the way I handle your problems? Take your problems back.
Keep your problem to yourself.
I didn't ask for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't share them.
Yeah, don't share them. These ain't Oreos. I don't need these.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yep.
Yeah, like you don't want me to you don't want me to bring it up. Handle it yourself, or
Correct.
at least don't make it my problem. Because I deal with my problems over here.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't put my head in the sand. Rinse do.
Correct. 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 Gotta do what you gotta
Like
do. And you can't get upset when somebody say something. Listen, but once you bring your shit over to me and made it my problem, of course I'm gonna say something.
yeah.
Now you brought me another problem. I want to talk about it for sure. I want to talk.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I want to talk about it.
Well, yeah, let's converse. We gotta talk about this.
Sure. Yes. Yes. I got something to say. Yes.
You want you say I should talk more? Here we go. Copper squat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna get some bull.
Yeah, see if we come to a resolution real quick.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, because like I just don't have not so much like I don't have the luxury to do that personally. Like I said, rinse do. After that, Sally Mae want to talk to me. She want every month she want to talk to me about the same thing.
Correct.
It's the same thing.
Correct.
It never changes.
Correct. All these conversations are the same. They're recurring conversations.
Yes, and now I gotta have this extra conversation
Mm-hmm.
that neither of us want, but we gonna have. Unless and until you take these problems off my table.
Correct. Because I don't need it.
I don't need it.
I don't need it. I tell somebody, quick, come on now.
Okay,
You
it's
definitely with more stuff. Don't bring that over here.
yo, it is hard enough getting through the day without like committing various felonies. Okay, now I got
Correct.
now I got to deal with your shit. No, homie, sit down, grab a drink. Let's talk about it.
For real. Yep,
Okay,
let's talk right now.
how can I help you? Help you?
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes. How can I help you? Help you.
So let me know. Or as I like to
Mm-hmm.
say, how can I help you and or make it go away faster?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm good with either one.
Either one. Either
either,
one.
either one.
Yeah. Don't nobody need no more nonsense.
Seriously. Like I don't know. I again be facetious, but I just try to limit the amount of problems that I have. Uh, I am I'm a finance major, so I'm all about reducing systemic risk, meaning risk that there's a level of risk that's just there by virtue of you existing.
Mm,
I'm not in the habit of taking on additional risk if I don't have to.
I know that's right.
Just dumb it to me. We got all these other things that I got to worry about.
Don't need that.
I don't know high blood pressure, prostate cancer, NYPD. Like it's just a bunch of shit that I got to worry about that I don't have
Mm-hmm.
just off the strength
Mm-hmm.
just off the strength of me looking like this. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Save the rest.
okay.
Save the rest.
Particularly that third one I just said.
Right?
Okay.
For sure.
So I am not in the habit of taking on other people's problems,
Mm-hmm.
or making additional problems for myself. This is why I don't cheat on people. this is why I've never cheated on someone. As I say, if you have a problem with your woman, you don't go out and get another woman because all you have is two problems. That is the best math equation I've ever heard in my life.
uh,
As they say, the math is mathing on that one.
math is mathing,
Yes,
huh?
I am not. I do not create. I try to reduce the number of problems that I make for myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
That's a smart thing to do.
so if you ask me, Jay, have you ever cheated? No, and I'm gonna be honest. It ain't because I'm a great person. I'm gonna be honest. It ain't like I ain't. Like, I'm a good man, but I ain't that fucking good.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay. I ain't gonna mention that. I don't see woman over here, but hey, I don't want them problems. Like I got enough problems of my own just being Jay.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
why am I gonna sign up for more if I don't have
Yeah.
to? Hey, I ain't had nothing to do with nothing. I don't want to point that out. But as I say, that ain't got shit to do with shit. Like, but just want to say,
It's all right though.
it's all right though. But yeah, I mean,
It's both.
it's relevant in the sense that I'm not a fan of making problems for myself if I don't have to, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I try to be as accountable as I can. But it can definitely be hard. Owning your stuff is hard. It's much easier to look at and identify what someone else has done to us or has done
Sure.
for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say, you know what, made a mistake here. It doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be dramatic or drastic. I was wrong here.
Right.
you know,
Right. Right.
because like it's hard being wrong. It's hard losing. We don't like to lose, and I
Correct.
guess being wrong is kind of like losing something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's how you grow. Like
It is how you grow.
that's literally how you grow. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
as I say at the jump, we growing over here.
That's right. For sure. For sure. Every day. Every day. It's a journey. It's a journey. It's a it's a very interesting journey. Healing is a very interesting journey. I don't know. It's funny because I almost I almost have a hard time, like even going back to thinking, how I was thinking or how I missed some of the things, you know, that I have now identified, or the things that I have. Some of them I've healed from. Some things I'm in the process of healing from, or just even some of the patterns missing, different things and all. It's funny because it's very retrospective, and for me, I've really been able to, just look inside of myself and recognize a lot of things about me, and giving myself grace, giving myself patience, um, and also giving myself, I guess I would call it discipline in the places where I need to give myself self discipline. Maybe where I didn't before. So those are all the things that I've really come to appreciate about my personal journey. And when I do think, when I started thinking about this whole subject, that we were going to be talking about today, I thought, because I think even in my head, I'm wondering at what point do you feel comfortable with saying I'm ready to actually date? Because, dating doesn't mean you're going to go out and meet somebody tomorrow and that's the person you're going to be with, right? So that's the other part about dating that you have to be aware of, right? Because if you're going to be dating, that means you're going to be dating. That means that you're going to be trying to find your partner, right? You're looking for your life partner, and so that's also work, And so, at what point can you combine that work effectively with your healing journey and what you're doing without any regression, or when do you know when you're not going to be bringing those things in? So I think that's probably the hardest part about healing while dating for me, if I think about it.
I can do that because dating is hard. Even when you're not healing from something or not on a healing journey. Just the process, just the trial and error process can be a lot. So now you add in your healing journey to that, and it can look kind of crazy because, like you said, you're not the odds of you finding a soulmate the first time out are very, very, very slim. Very, very slim. No, relationships don't work out for a variety of reasons that have nothing to do with you being on a healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when you are on a healing journey and it doesn't work out? Now it's like, you know, did it work out because of XYZ, or did it work out because of something that you encountered on your healing journey? Like that,
Mm-hmm.
that's real. That's hard. It's hard to decipher sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
you know, ideally, you would use that to kind of help your healing journey to help you realize, kind of things you will not tolerate, don't want to put up with, do want. That's hopefully part of that growth.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just pick wrong. Sometimes you just get with an asshole. Sometimes the reason they didn't work out, they had nothing to do with you. Like
Yeah.
sometimes that person cheated or has some other issue. And
Mm-hmm.
it can be very easy to say or ask, what did I miss? I'm not as healed as I thought I was, but it may not have anything to do with that.
Right.
Sometimes you just get with a cheating crackhead. I don't know. Like it just like just like
Yeah.
I don't I don't I don't know how you like keep an eye out for that in in real life. Um I don't know. But, sometimes it happens. Um, I guess the best you can do is just try to look for red flags and green flags.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't talk about green flags nearly enough. You might need to,
Mm-hmm.
we might need to have a talk on that because everybody, again, we're like programmed to look at and look for all the bad stuff. But when people are doing what they need to do, and
Right.
making space, not just for themselves, but for somebody else, that doesn't really get talked about. And yeah, there's uh, I am not generally a believer in giving people credit for things they're supposed to be doing. I understand there's a bare minimum, but as much as we talk about these red flags, we should talk about these green ones because they do exist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but we're going to talk about the red ones right now. We'll circle back for the green some other time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I didn't put green flags in the rundown. That's why we're not going to talk about it. I literally thought of that on the episode. So that's how we do. Just things come to us top of the dome.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The best ideas.
Exactly. The best ideas happen on the episode. But some red flags are people who's like kind of how we described before. People who uh, say they're working on something, but not actually working on something. They're just saying that, or they're just saying that they're aware of whatever it is they need to be aware of, but they're not actually doing anything to rectify, deal with,
So
resolve, or grow. Someone who's actually
right.
avoiding growth because growth is hard.
Right. Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta observe folks. Basically what they're saying and what they're doing consistent.
Right. That's a big one.
What else we got? Do they respect boundaries? Do they have boundaries? Um, and are they actual boundaries, or are they just like walls or rules? Because sometimes you get that confused as well.
Sure. Sure.
We say things that are they're rules, but we list them as boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Rule. I think rules are more external, boundaries are more internal. Again, I'm
Mm-hmm.
simplifying that, but
Uh-huh.
that's kind of where they typically fall. Like a rule can be both. Something can be both a rule and a boundary. I can see why some people get the confused.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but they are by and large different things.
Yes.
Um, and you got to be aware of that. And it's perfectly healthy to have boundaries. I think maybe should be expected to have some boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Um, that's all I got on the red flags.
I think respect mutual respect is a big one. Um, I don't think a lot of people understand what it means to actually respect someone and for there to be mutual respect. So that's a big thing for me. I think definitely what you were saying earlier is basically like the willingness to grow, so saying that, you see something and saying that something, automatically, like I said earlier, every red flag doesn't mean 100% a no, right? Sometimes it's just something, this is what I need to watch out for, right? Does it mean that you can't grow? Even if it's one of my red flags, it doesn't mean it's not something that I can't work through or grow through or evolve from, right? But I can tell you very early on, if I see you're not willing to grow, you're not willing to address things, you're not willing to work on an effective method of communication, that's a big red flag for me. Because then that also kind of ties into the whole respect thing. Because I think the way you communicate with someone has a lot to do with respect in between the two of you. So I think communication is like a really big thing for me. If you don't know how to communicate healthy, I don't be bothered. Yeah, I don't be bothered. I just don't. Yeah. I don't like name calling. I don't like the cursing. I don't like not that it doesn't happen sometimes, but there's some people like that's just how they communicate. Like all the time, all the time. I'd rather there just be no communication. I'd rather, just don't say anything than everything has to be something that is, I feel like it's always just jabs, like always trying to hurt. Every time you say something, even if you're mad, doesn't mean you have to try to go below the belt or try to hurt someone, right? Or say things that you think is going to be hurtful to them or try to shame them. That's not the way you communicate with someone, especially if you care about them, right? I mean, on the same token, I guess somebody can say to me, well, if you care about somebody, you would communicate more, and perhaps so. But for me, I'd rather the person who doesn't say as much than the person who's talking crazy, because I can tell you right now, the talking crazy is going to be an absolute, no, we're done. Yeah, we're done right away with that. I'll work with you, to see if you're not saying as much stuff, to say this is what I'd like to talk about. When you start talking crazy, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I don't want to deal with you at all, because I'm too grown for that kind of stuff.
Makes sense, yeah. I guess I would probably, as someone, I guess I fall into the category of not talking as much. Like I definitely ain't calling somebody out of their name, taking shots. But yeah, that's something that I am working on and continue to work on, is to not retreat or withdraw. Say what's on my mind. But I yeah, I would agree. Like I would rather someone who doesn't talk as much than someone who just talking crazy. Um, I'm pretty sure that no one has ever got a punch in their mouth for not talking enough. If I had to guess,
Yeah,
but people talking crazy, I'm pretty sure they've had to duck once or twice
exactly.
in their lifetime,
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Yeah.
or at least gotta And if that's how you communicate, that's how you communicate. Just keep your head on a swivel. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying.
For sure. For sure.
It's like,
Yeah. I'm not going. I'm not. I don't. Yeah. It's a no for me. Yeah.
and I ain't advocating. I'm not advocating violence. It's just you can't say just any old thing to anybody, but say, even if you're upset, like you said, respect has to um be a major part. You gotta be able. You have to be able to fight fair. And I don't think you know extreme cursing or calling somebody out of their name qualifies. At least if you even got hands, you shouldn't be doing that. I'll say. But even that, hands should never be. That shouldn't be part of it. You should never get to. You should never get to the hands.
Correct.
like, like,
Correct. Correct. Just have some respect. That's all. I
just
mean,
have,
just have.
yeah, have respect. Watch your mouth. You'll go far. You'll
Exactly.
go-
You know what? And none of that stuff even gets you anywhere. Just everybody be all mad, right? Everybody's upset. You're upset over whatever it is they made you upset for to begin with. Then they're upset for how you talk to them, right? And so now everybody's upset. There are things that are said and put out into the air that can never be taken back. That's part of the reason why I don't talk as much, is I'm very conscientious of that fact, that I can definitely say something to someone that will offend them for sure. I know this about myself. So that's something that I will do and I'm cognizant of, so that I don't just say things that now I put out me, because an apology is it's all right, right? But you can't take away whatever it is that you said or whatever it is you did, right? So that's why I'm very cautious about those kinds of things, because I just don't feel like it gets you anywhere in the long run. That's when you have people that somewhere later on down the line, well, you said X, Y, and Z, or you called me X, Y, this and that before, right? Because people don't forget that kind of stuff, right? And people don't like it. It's really that simple. People don't like to be talked to like that. So even if they're like, oh, we're going to make up and all, your average person is like, yeah, no. Or go tell their girlfriend, and he said X, Y, and Z. And he had enough no, he's calling me a bitch. He called me that, right? This is the way it goes. And so that means that you don't like it. That means there's harsh feelings behind it. So you're just better off, if you can just try to communicate a little bit better. Just you say whatever your problem is, right? Because is your problem really overall that you think somebody's a bitch? Right? Is that the problem? Or did they do something to make you feel that way? So just say whatever it is that they did to make you feel like calling them a bitch, other than just saying bitch, right? Because the bitch don't go over.
I'm trying to be serious here.
I'm just going to be serious, but you understand what I'm saying, right?
I do, but sometimes I need some bitch. I don't know.
Listen, now there are definitely times when the bitch is applicable, and
So
that's just where you're gonna go with it, or whatever else it is that you're calling someone, right? So don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying in your average argument that you're having in a relationship, it doesn't go over well. You know, every once in a while, okay, but for the really, that's not the way to communicate when you're upset with your partner. You want to be trying to tell them whatever it is, because if you care about them and you want to be with them, right? Whatever it is they're doing that you're upset over, you want them to stop.
yes, even if it isn't being a bitch, you can't, even
Just say it in a different way.
just saying it, say it in a different way. Because you're right. If you with someone, if you with someone long enough, then clearly you know they got bitch tendencies. Yes, it's probably not good to just say, what, I see the bitch in you right now. It's not good with the person you love. And you know what, part of that's on you. Because again, if you've been with them long enough, you know that they got a little bitch in them.
You know that already.
You know that already. So ain't no point bringing up old news. You selfish motherfucker. Move right there.
That's a bitch move.
Bitch move.
Yes, that's what I mean.
now, now both of y'all go sit down with your bitch asses. Okay. Yeah. Now, who you calling a bitch? You, both of y'all. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Equal opportunity, both of y'all.
Yep. I'm spreading the love. I'm
Spreading
spreading the
love.
love.
Okay. But but you mentioned something that I kind of want to dovetail on. Some a lot of us. I was going to kind of take the introvert route, because we don't talk as much, but that's partly because we observe a lot. So even though we don't talk a lot, um, we we get a read on people, and we know what buttons to push if you want to. But I don't think that's just limited to introverts. I think anyone who's observant,
Sure.
who's observant by nature, kind of understands at least the person that they're dealing with, kind of what makes them tick and what their red buttons are. I am one of those people, and I'm like you. Like a big reason why I don't talk as much, particularly when I get upset, is because I know what I want to say, and I know how I want to say it, and I don't say like random angry stuff. No, my shit is tailor made. Okay, my shit's custom for you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm coming right at you.
like, yeah, like I know I know what button to hit if I want to, say something off the wall. Um, but you're right, but because it becomes, well, down the line or whatever. Well, you said this, or you said it this way, and again, another reason why I don't go that way is because I also know that I ain't shit. So it's like someone be like, you said this, you said I was a bitch, and did. Can't do that. Can't do that. That's what it's like.
Yep.
Like that's
Yep.
what,
Yep.
So I know I gotta go take a minute, rewrite some stuff, and then come back.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
But what would get me into trouble is that all of that just looked like me not talking, or me not caring that the person who was upset was upset. It looked like me just walking away.
That's what it looks like. Yes.
Yeah, when really it's no, I'm saving both of us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah.
you have
Yeah.
you have
Salvaging the
yes,
situation.
you
Sure.
have no many crimes I'm preventing right now.
Correct. Correct.
But
Correct.
yeah, but I realize that even if I don't have the words to respectfully say, I guess what I'm trying to say, I can at least say, you know what, I need a minute.
Right.
Letting somebody know, before a conflict. Listen, I'm not good at word retrieval in the moment. Sometimes I got to go think a minute, get my thoughts together, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm liable to say X, Y, Z. So I rather
Right. So
just,
let's go ahead and
yeah,
process. Sure.
let me go process. I'll come back. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if if you're the type of person that has to say, what you feel in the moment, cool. I'll listen. But I'm telling you right now, the response might be limited. like,
Yeah.
because
No. No.
I need to
Yeah.
resort, like I'll absorb that, but I still need a minute to process. So it ain't like I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. Is that I got to process. Um, again, I can. That's what I've learned to say. And also I'm getting better at taking this stuff further and actually being able to process it in the moment. Because at a certain point, you got to be able. You got to like at a certain point, you got to argue in real time. That's part of growth.
Right. Right. You got. Yeah. You got to participate sometimes.
Yeah, like that's cool,
Sure.
but again, there's self awareness and accountability. So
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
gotta be able to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to what you said earlier, you know, how do you work on that unless you give somebody?
Correct.
The only other way is to go around starting arguments with people. It's like,
How else do you know? Yeah. I
uh,
mean that.
yeah, how
Yeah.
else do you know? So that's one of those things that you need another person for. It sounds weird, it sounds weird to say another person to learn how to argue, but yeah, kind of do.
Mm-hmm. To
Can't.
because you can't argue by yourself, can't communicate with yourself effectively. So you have to bounce those things off. So once you feel like you've kind of gotten to a point maybe where you feel like you're better at those things, then that's kind of like the test, where you're talking to other people and you're interacting with someone else and you're seeing, because even if you're dating, I mean, I'm not a big dating person, right? So I'm not an expert to say about do this is the X, Y, and Z because I haven't dated in years, right? So I don't really know. But what I can say is that if I were, if I'm going out there and I'm trying to start dating tomorrow, I would be very careful even as I was easing into a situation, right? So that I can test my own self. I think some people, because I've seen, and I say that just because from experience of seeing other people or meeting people, and a lot of people, they just jump right in. They just dive into, you diving into 12 feet of water and you barely can swim. Yeah. All you can do is do a dead man's float and you're jumping in 12 feet of water. Like, what would make you do that? It's not smart. Not smart to me, So I just feel like for me, I would need to just really take it slow so that I can work on and testing myself to see how well am I able to do those things with that other person. That it'll let me know. Even if it's not a relationship that lasts long term, it still allows you to see how have you, if that was something you were working on before, have you become better at it? How much work maybe do you still need to do with it? If you still see you're doing the same thing or somebody can still trigger you in the same ways, that means you still need more growth in those areas. So it helps you, along your journey as well. It's just, it's still, you still can be trepidatious about when you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what did we learn today, class? Healing is definitely important. You can date on your healing journey. You need to be self-aware and also take accountability. Communication is key, and above all else, don't be a bitch. If you take nothing else from this episode, take that.
That's for men and women, by the way.
Exactly. For men and women, no bitch assness.
Mm-hmm.
That's a unisex slogan right there.
For sure. For sure.
But
That with you.
yes, yes, please, please, definitely. So own a house, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, but seriously, like dating is hard in general. Healing is hard in general. So dating while healing, um, there should be no expectation that it's going to be any easier. But it can be done, and it can definitely be rewarding. So don't where it makes sense. I would say don't close yourself off to it. And this is probably one of those times where I am talking or I'm speaking to myself as much as I'm speaking to you. So yes, we'll see. We'll see if we all take my advice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Before we wrap up, we got the hard truth of the week. Do you want to take it, Shay, or shall I?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So, hard truth of the week. You do not have to be completely healed to deserve love, but you do need to be willing to grow. And that's because none of us are finished products. The real question is whether we're willing to grow, both with ourselves and with the people that we care about. So I hope that helps anyone that needs the help. And I am taking my time saying these words because I'm hungry. So this is what happens when Jay gets hungry. He starts to shut down. It also lets us know that it's definitely time for the episode to end. So as always, thank you, Shay, for this wonderful conversation.
Absolutely. Same to you. And thanks for everybody out there listening. We appreciate you. And guys, just remember, healing is not a destination.
Mm-hmm. So until next time, take your peace seriously and don't be a bitch. All right. Interact. And we're out. We are out. Peace out, y'all.